All right, Courtney. So you just passed the PMP. How did it go?
It went really well. It was nerve-wracking and exciting, and I am super excited to have passed successfully.
There you go. Yeah, we were excited too. All right, cool. So everybody's got like a little bit of story how they got here. What's your PMP story?
Yeah, so like a lot of people, I've been, working on projects, smaller projects, then, getting bigger over the
Hmm.
course of my career. I've been doing it for about 15 years on various levels. And writing the PMP has been something that I've wanted to do for about 8 years.
Okay.
Every time I kind of pulled out the idea and had a look at it, talked to people, I got pretty discouraged, or not discouraged, but just like, oh, this isn't the time, or that just looks like a lot of work, or I just don't know if I can do it. And
Yeah,
so, yeah, recently I decided that the time was right, and I started searching for tools to help me do that.
that's cool. I guess that's how we met. So you did the accelerator and some other things. What was it about the accelerator that kind of drew you in, or what was really helpful to help you get your PMP?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it wasn't, I didn't do a straight line to the accelerator.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people, tried different ways to study. I got the PMBOK. At first, I was completely intimidated by it, and just kept pushing it to the side and was having a lot of trouble. It's not a study guide, and I think most of us know that
Right.
within about 30 minutes of looking at it. Now I love the PMBOK. And that's thanks to your program. I understand it, and it's logical, and I can pick it up and find what I need. But at first it was really intimidating. I then did a online course, which, satisfied my 35 contact hours, but I wasn't feeling confident. And the idea that I had to memorize all this information was just so overwhelming. So I had, pages and pages of notes, and I just thought, I'm not retaining this information. So I signed up for a boot camp, and again, it's just like this onslaught of information. And so I started listening to your podcast when I was doing other things, out in the garden or on the treadmill or whatever.
That's cool.
And you kept saying things that were like just, resonating for me. It was like, you don't need to memorize this. I'm not going to ask you to memorize anything. And then you just, you keep saying all the time, just send me an email. So I'm like, I don't, I
Yeah.
wasn't thinking I was going to sign up for your course, but I'm just like, you know what? I'm just going to send you an email. And you literally phoned me within about 15 minutes. And you asked me a really important question, which was, how do you learn? And I said, you know what? I don't memorize things. I want to understand the material, and I need to know why. I need
Mhm.
to know why I'm doing this, why this is important, why this process needs to be followed. And you're like, bang, okay. And you invited me to the coaching calls, and that's really what cemented it for me. So I did your accelerator program and loved it. Things I loved about it were the fact that you come in every day with a check off list. So I would print that list off, and I would just systematically go through it. And one of the things that was super helpful about the accelerator program was that you describe it as waves of information, and that's really what I needed, and I think a lot of people would benefit from. Is, here's the information. Okay, we're going to come back to this. So each time you hear that information in whatever format, it just sort of, it builds on your learning. So what I feel like I got from the accelerator program was a really comprehensive understanding of the material. And I think ultimately, yes, it got me through the PMP, and yes, it got me through the PMP above target, but it also is a learning for how to be a better project manager and how to move forward in projects in my career, and ultimately, do what I want to be doing. So it wasn't a superficial memorize it just to get through the exam. It was an actual learning that I can take forward to my projects.
That's
The other
pretty
thing that
awesome.
yeah, it really was like, it just, I think about it all the time, and that learning is just, it's really authentic. Not to, I know it's a sort of a word that gets overused right now, but it really is an authentic way to learn.
That's awesome. Well, I'm
Yeah.
really, really glad. And I mean, the cool part is with this is like, I remember the first time you went into it. Give me 1 second. Okay, I gotta type up Hot Wheels. Sweet. So
Yeah.
the cool part is that like we get to see you all the time in the coaching calls with
Yeah.
like me or with the other coaches. Who was your, so could you describe kind of like the impact or the like how the coaching calls helped you learn? Like what
Yeah,
was that?
so I would say, bar none, I would say to anybody that's looking. So got really overwhelmed initially with how many different coaches, not coaches, but how many different programs are out there to help people prepare for the PMP. Like I didn't realize that it is an industry in itself, and
Yeah.
finding your way through that. If, like I said, it wasn't a straight line for me to you. I spent a lot of time, I spent a lot of money on other things that weren't, hitting home for me. So one of the things that I think sets your program apart is the coaching call component.
Okay.
So that ability to spend an hour and a half or an hour, whatever it is, with you, and then the accountability coaching that we do at another point in the week. I had Kate, and I got to meet Sandy at one point, and I also got to meet Matt. Like these people are above the board in terms of coaching. Years of experience, a way to teach. I mean, yes, there's a lot of PMPs with experience out there, but the difference between what I found is that the coaches have the ability to transfer that knowledge to you and help you figure your way through it. So that's where the learning really came for me, is those conversations with the other students or with the coaches, where you really understand why this answer is what it is. Because on the PMP, a lot of the questions, I mean, we know that the questions are almost all situational,
Right.
but they also, there's two answers where really it could, in your mind, a lot of the time it could be either one. So it's understanding the fine points. And I think that's what the coaching calls do, in addition to having that camaraderie of your cohort. So these other people from various different stages, various different countries, various different industries, all coming together and sharing that information and having those conversations are great. And then there's the networking aspect. I didn't even, like, that wasn't even on my agenda, but I've met all these other great PMPs from around, around the world. And I've, developed these relationships with them, and I can bounce ideas off of them. And that was, something we don't talk about, but it's, it's a side benefit that's been really, really helpful.
That's really cool. Yeah, and we're going to do more for like the graduates, like, or whatever you want to call them, the people who
Yeah.
get the PMP to be there, because the thing I'm so heartened by every week is that it's a collegial environment and it's relaxed and people are talking. And then once we get the PMP done with, which 128 or 9 or whatever we're on right now, then you guys can still talk and build up, and then we can teach
Yeah.
more things, and goodness can ensue. So that's really
Yeah.
great. That's cool. So, I mean, I'm sure there are people out there, there are thousands of people out there that are just like you, that, I mean, you're working full time, right? You're a
Yep.
mom, you're building,
Yep.
running a family, doing all those things. Like, you're
Yeah.
busy. For those kind of people that have gone through multiple places, like, from like, what would you say to those people? Like, how do they keep themselves going? How do they simplify things? What's your recommendation for those type of people that are kind of like you?
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, I think by nature, if we're in project management, we're fairly organized. I
Yeah.
think though, it's making that commitment, and it's that time. And the PMP is not an easy exam.
Mhm.
It's not, but it's the piece around having the right tools in place. So if you're at that point where you've got the PMBOK and you're looking at it and you're trying to, absorb that information, it needs to be that you set up those supports. So the accelerator program is a great support. The coaching calls are a great support, and just buckling down and committing that time to doing it. I mean, I spent a lot of time getting ready.
Mhm.
Some people do it really fast. Like you mentioned, I've got work and family and all those other things that we all balance, and
Mhm.
it's setting aside that time to really commit to doing it.
That's really good. All right. And so last thing is, like, the number one question people ask me is, like, how do I know if I'm ready? And
Yeah,
so you did a lot of study, and I know you worked with Matt and some other people toward the
yeah.
end. How did you know that you were ready to get above target like you did?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I mean, you've got some parameters and some metrics to use, which
Mhm.
were the simulator tests. So for me, it was really, honing in on that tool. So the way that I use that tool is I broke it down and I just started, I was doing the 50 question simulators. I was doing the 100. I did a couple of 200s just to
Mhm.
understand the length of time and my timing. But I then drew it back to the basics, and I went back to the knowledge areas, and I did each one of those 3 or 4 times and just looked for the places where I needed to beef up my skills. So once I identified it by that tool, which was brilliant because it is so customizable,
Mhm.
you can really figure out where you need to focus. And so that piece, once I was, hitting those, high 70s, 80s, mid 80s, having some 90s in there, that's when I started to really think about, okay, shall I do the exam? And then it was a little bit was the coaches saying, you're ready, like you're good. And then it was for me, I had a new position coming up. I had a start date, and I was like, I knew it about
Just gotta
3
do
or
it.
4 weeks out, and I'm like, okay, I want to get this wrapped up before I start because my new position is going to take a lot of mind space. So I literally wrote the exam on a Wednesday, and I started my new position on Thursday morning. So
Wow. That's good. That's good
so
for pressure though. You had to do it. So that's good. And
yeah,
at the end of the day, you got above target. So that's really awesome.
it was a great way to go in.
That's cool. Well, I know it is Sunday morning, and I really, really appreciate your time, and you've
Yeah.
done so well. So, just wanted to say thank you again, and that we're proud of you, and that we, hopefully, we can continue to talk through like the alumni thing. And
Yeah.
thank you again, Courtney.
Thank you so much, Scott. Thank you for showing up. Just you are who you are on and you said to me when you phoned, I said, you sound just like your podcast. And you said, oh, I've only got one voice. But I want to say, thank you for your enthusiasm. Thank you for making it fun. Like you deliver the material in such a way that's, we're laughing and we're learning, and you just take you take that two-dimensional material and you really make it 3D. And I love that. And I really hope that there are, programs going forward that
Mhm.
alumni can participate in. I would totally be down with that. Please
Yeah.
think of me.
Yeah, we definitely will. We've talked
Yeah.
about other things about like having you and other people come on and like kind of talk through the exam experience. So we'll
Yep.
get that set up real quick, and we'll let you know how to do it. And we really appreciate it. So,
Okay.
all right, have a good weekend, and I'll
Great.
talk to you later. See ya.
Okay. Thanks,
Bye bye.
Scott.